Good afternoon. This is Bob Brooks, host of the Prudent Money Radio Show. Just got off the program, and today we're talking about identity theft because it is rampant. And I've been following identity theft, the hacks, everything that's been going on for years now, and I've never seen this so out of control as it is today. And there's different types of crimes that are being committed, and it is on the rise. You've got to make sure that you protect yourself. We talk a lot about that today, and to make sure that the ones you love, your parent, if you're adult kids and your parents are still alive, make sure that they are aware and protected. And I talk about the golden rule of identity theft, that if you follow this rule, you'll probably wipe out 80 to 90% of the problems that could happen. So that is all on today's program. Also, if you've got a question for me, and or you also might have a question regarding your 401k plan, your investments, what's going on with the markets, make sure that you contact me. I'd love to talk to you. Just go to prudentmoney.com. Info@prudentmoney.com is where you can reach me. And always like to remind people I am a financial advisor, and that's what I do during the day. So make sure that if I can help you out, I certainly want to do so. That's all at prudentmoney.com. Keep the faith.
Jeff Wickwire, heard daily on Bible School Radio 91.3, KDKR, Decatur, Dallas-Fort Worth, and on 91.3 KYJC, Commerce.
Portions of KDKR programming do not necessarily reflect the views of this station, its management, or staff.
Prudent Money with Bob Brooks is sponsored by the Prudent Money Foundation on 91.3.
Well, there is a problem, and it is silently growing bigger and bigger. Today we're going to take a look. Stay tuned for Prudent Money. Listening to the Prudent Money Radio Show. Thanks so much for joining me today. You know, I do appreciate it. If you got a question for me, I do have a line open. I'd love to talk to you today. The number to call is 1-877-913-5357. 1-877-913-5357. You can also go to the website at www.prudentmoney.com. Send a question into the Q&A section. Old habits die hard. The Q&A section, we've kind of redone things at the top of the page of the website, and I will get you taken care of. That is all at the website, www.prudentmoney.com. 1-877-913-5357. I got to tell you that, of course, I follow a lot of different topics in the media, and there's a lot of things that I follow on purpose so I can, or intentionally, so that I can keep you apprised of what is happening. And I got to tell you that, and I talked about this months ago, but I thought it was worth talking about it with some new information. And it's all about identity theft. The rate of identity theft is just surging unlike anything I've ever seen. And it's a real dilemma. I mean, it's a big growing problem that hackers are stealing information just at a rapid rate. I've had people tell me, and this is more than just one couple or one family that's told me this, that I got a call about a month ago. I've mentioned this one before. This is kind of the worst one that I've come across. But a friend of mine, she said that she received in 5 weeks' time 4 different letters from different companies stating that their personal finance information has been compromised. 4 separate large institution companies informing her and informing her husband that their information has been compromised. And it's not just that. I've always said that there is, 327 million people roughly in the United States, counting kids, counting people in retirement, the whole thing. That's the last census that was taken. If you added up the number of people who've had their personal information compromised over the past 4 or 5 years, you would way exceed that number. And I remember back 5 or 6 years ago. In fact, Home Depot was one that I remember for sure. They had a security hack into their databases, and there was something like 60,000 people had their information stolen. This was a big deal. It was all over the news. It was information that was on the front page of newspapers when there were newspapers. And today it would be on section 5, page 32 of the newspaper. I mean, it wouldn't even be a big story. Lucky to make the evening news. Since then, the IRS has been hacked. One of the biggest hacks that I can possibly imagine is a credit reporting bureau, and I think it was Equifax or Experian, one of the two. I think that was 100 million credit files that have been compromised. So having said that, if you look at the sheer number of people who've had their credit information compromised or stolen, that would mean that we all probably high probability chance that our information is sitting out there and just waiting on hackers to use it. And not only that, I've heard crazy stories of how these identity thieves have taken pieces of information from individuals. So they have it dialed down to just a particular people within an organization and pulling off a theft of $10,000-$15,000, which all in a day's work. And this is the problem, is that people who want to steal don't have to risk their lives at all anymore. And the rewards of crime are just incredible. I mean, they're easily breaking in to bank accounts. They're easily breaking into savings accounts and investment accounts. I would suggest, and even though I've seen this and reported in articles, I'm a little bit of a skeptic that they're breaking into retirement accounts. Just because now, not that it hasn't happened, I think that is a harder account to break into. But I have to tell you, and it's just something that I hope that you'll take to heart. You've got to be prepared, and you've got to be on guard to make sure that you have an identity theft plan in place. And maybe a couple of years ago, I talked about the different types of planning that as a prudent steward that you should have in place. That's everything from retirement planning to estate planning to debt planning. If you have a lot of debt you've got to get rid of. I mean, there's a lot of different types of planning. And I added to that you have an identity theft plan. Now, this is not one of those things where you can just, even though the identity theft business is a very lucrative business, and they would lead you to believe that all you have to do is just sign up for these companies that claim to be able to stop and detect any type of identity theft in process. And there's one in particular, probably the biggest one, where one of the founders of the company would go and put his Social Security number on a big 18-wheeler, and as a promotion. Now I'll have to hand it to these guys. They were incredible marketers, and they would drive around New York and expose his Social Security number. What they didn't tell you is that he got his Social Security number stolen 75 different times. They forget to tell you that, but they started off, and what they were doing, they were claiming to be this incredible resource to where it would stop identity theft. And what they were doing was, if you called them and said, "I want to sign up for your services," they would place a fraud alert on your credit file, and you have 3 of them: Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion, and they would renew it every 30 days or every 90 days. I can't remember which one it was, either 30 days or 90 days. So every time that someone was trying to get into your credit file, they would notify you. And that was their revolutionary system. They were what they were basically doing was taking advantage of a law that was in place and misinterpreted that law, and eventually got sued for it, and they got shut down. Literally 2 weeks later, they came out with this greater, bigger system. Yeah, trust them if you want to. But this is it goes way more. It goes beyond having an identity theft protection type solution or software. It becomes it's all about being aware and being to where you are on guard and you protect your information. So extremely important today. And it's just one of those things where we've got to be very, very careful. There has now been a nationwide increase in what's called phantom hacker scams. And it's a type of fraud, and they go after senior citizens, which we'll talk a little bit about this further down the program. But they go after senior citizens who often lose their entire bank savings, retirement, or investment accounts to this phantom hacker scam. And this is an evolution of the tech support scams, which is a type of cybercrime. As of August 2023, losses from tech support scams were up 40% over the same period in 2022. This is according to a recent FBI public service announcement. We'll talk more about this on the other side of the break. 1-877-913-5357. This is Bob Brooks. Stick around. I'll be right back.
The Word for Today is excited to announce the new official online home for the ministry of Pastor Chuck Smith and Kay Smith, PastorChuck.org. At PastorChuck.org, you'll have instant access to thousands of hours of verse-by-verse teaching by Pastor Chuck Smith from Genesis through Revelation, and full access to special messages on subjects such as prophecy and much, much more. Also at PastorChuck.org, a full library of great teachings by Kay Smith, and a section where you can read some of Pastor Chuck's books online, all free of charge. So visit the new official online home of the Word for Today and the ministry of Pastor Chuck and Kay Smith, PastorChuck.org.
Our belief about God will affect how we view our life, how we view others, and how we live in this world. And that's why Pastor Greg Laurie is helping us strengthen our view of the Lord this week on A New Beginning. It's a new series called Timeless, Unchanging Truth in a Changing Culture. Tune in for A New Beginning.
new beginning weekday mornings at 7:30 here on KDKR.
Dynamic, practical, life-changing.
There's no point in going to church and not letting the Christ who gave birth to the church on the day of Pentecost change your life.
Join us each day as Pastor Paul Shepherd applies the timeless truth of Scripture to everyday life. It's Destined for Victory on this great station.
Weekday afternoons at 3:30 here on Bible School Radio, KDKR.
Welcome back. This is Bob Brooks, and you are listening to the Prudent Money Radio Show. 1-877-913-5357. We're talking about this new scam that's called the Phantom Hacker Scam. They're saying that half of the victims over this past year, they're saying 40% that the tech support scams, which this Phantom Hacker Scam is a kind of an offshoot of, that half of the victims were over 60 years old and comprised 66% of the total financial losses. They just find that age group is very easy. It's got the assets and easy to attack from the standpoint of identity theft. They write in this article that phantom hackers' crimes are multi-layered. Initially, fraudsters generally pose as computer technicians from well-known companies and persuade victims they have a serious computer issue like a virus and that their financial accounts may also be at risk from foreign hackers. Accomplices then pose as officials from financial institutions or the U.S. government who convince victims to move their money from accounts that are supposedly at risk to new safe accounts under the guise of protecting their assets. And of course, the minute they do that, those accounts are gone. Of course, in reality, there never was any foreign hacker, and the money is now fully controlled by the scammers. About 19,000 victims of tech support scams submitted complaints to the FBI from January to June 2023. Estimated losses were over $542 million. By comparison, 33,000 total complaints and $807 million in losses in 2022. Now, I've always said this about the identity theft, identity theft claims and complaints, that they are like any complaint on debt collectors or you name it that goes to the federal government through the different agencies. I think have always been very understated. I believe that people, for one, are kind of embarrassed that it happened and not willing to turn in a complaint. But I think that you would agree it is a real problem. Now, here's the thing. I've talked about this many times, and I will be the first to admit that you have to think a little bit before you act to apply this, what I call the golden rule of identity theft. But it still applies. The FBI offered 5 don'ts to help consumers sidestep this kind of fraud, and my golden rule of identity theft will apply to every single one of these. And that is simply this. Very simple to understand, and it applies. I have yet to see anything that did not apply towards identity theft-wise. Here it goes. It goes like this. If you are approached by anybody, by any type of means, requesting information, you don't give it to them. You immediately shut it down, call the original number of the company that they're supposed to be representing, and verify their identity and confirm that it's legit. So anytime anybody, now when I say anybody or anything approaches you, and that could be You could be approached by an email. You could be approached by someone at your front door. You could be approached by a phone call. You could be approached by a letter in the mail. And they're asking you for money. Don't give it to them. Now, let's take a doctor's office, for instance. Let's say that you walk into a doctor's office and you are walking up to a counter. You know the doctor's office is legit. They're not approaching you. You're approaching them. And the doctor's office asks for your social security number or whatever. And you should probably be okay to give it to them. But if the doctor's office calls you and someone says that their nurse, that their particular nurse, they're with Dr. Smith, and to verify your identity, they need your social security number. Don't give it to them. Please don't give it to them. If they approach you or anything approaches you, don't give them your information. So here is their list of 5. Don't click on unsolicited computer pop-ups or links or attachments in text messages and emails. They're approaching you through a computer pop-up, a link, an attachment. Texts are horrible. They're starting to really get out of control. And emails. Don't contact the phone number provided in a pop-up, text, or email telling you to call a number for assistance. So if one of these viruses takes over your computer, they're approaching you, right? Don't give them any information. Shut your computer down immediately, then take the necessary steps, which does not mean call the support system or contact anybody to help you fix the situation. Don't download software from upon the request. Once again, upon the request, they approach you of an unknown individual who contacted you. An unknown individual who contacted you. In fact, if someone sends me an email with an attachment, I rarely open it because of that. The final one is don't send money via wire transfer to foreign accounts, cryptocurrency, or gift or prepaid cards at the request, once again, of someone you don't know. Gift cards and prepaid cards have become a really big part of the identity theft world. And in fact, I heard the craziest story I think I've ever heard of someone getting scammed because and they used Apple gift cards. And the thing is, it was so real that one may bust my golden rule, a rule of thumb. However, it did involve Apple gift cards, and if you're aware of that, maybe you would know that could possibly be a scam. But it was such a wild story. I don't know. That's a question mark, and therein lies the problem. Is that the technology is such that scammers and identity thieves are able to steal information so much easier than they've ever been able than ever in the past. So it's something that you definitely have to be aware of. This is something that I would put if you don't have a system in place, I would highly encourage you to put one in place. I saw an article too earlier today. I was kind of researching a little bit, and it questioned the use of identity theft software, hiring one of these companies to offer protection against identity theft. I disagree, and I thought that any kind of an article that would encourage people to not consider that, I think is a little irresponsible. But that's just my opinion. I think that, you know, even the company, and I typically don't share names of companies, but the company that I don't necessarily trust, they do have some components of their system. I think you're overpaying for it, but at least having some of those components that's going to help protect yourself from identity theft. Really, anything that will notify you that someone has inquired about on your credit reports is a large step in the right direction. And to me, that's the only one that I can find that is legit. The rest of them, I just have questions about how they could be a way of protecting you from, you know, all these different types of threats. At least get that in place at a minimum. Keep an eye on your accounts, on your bank accounts, on your credit card accounts. Just take some time, a specific time, two or three times a month. This is why I don't like debit cards as opposed to credit cards, because credit cards have unlimited protection, no questions asked. Debit cards, if you don't get it resolved within a certain time period, I think it's 60 days, you run the risk of losing all the money that was stolen out of your account, if that is the fraud or the crime. So just be careful. And I'll continue to bring this up from time to time, but just make sure that you're keeping an eye on your information. This is Bob Brooks. You got a question for me, please go to the website at prudentmoney.com. Send it in, because we are all out of time. Till we do meet again next time, keep the faith and have a great rest of the day.
That's all the time we have for today. Questions or comments for Bob, or to find out more great information like what you've just heard, visit www.prudentmoney.com. Be sure to join Bob Brooks again for the next edition of Prudent Money.